So, have you ever had one of those garden beds? You know the one. It just refuses to thrive. You're out there watering it, you're feeding it, you're doing everything you're supposed to, but the results are just, well, they're not great. It's a super common frustration, but believe it or not, the answer is usually right there under your feet. So, let's get our hands dirty and solve this mystery once and for all.
It is such a frustrating place to be, isn't it? You've put in the time, you've put in the care, but your plants just aren't responding. Well, this is a classic sign that the problem isn't actually with the plants themselves. It's not even what you're feeding them. Nope, it points to something way more fundamental. So what are the clues we're looking for? Well, you might see water just pooling on the surface instead of soaking in. Or maybe the soil dries into this hard, almost concrete-like crust. And here's the biggest tell of all. You follow your feeding schedule to the letter, and nothing happens. These aren't plant problems, folks. These are soil problems. To fix the problem, we've first got to learn how to read it correctly. And here's the good news. You do not need a fancy lab or any expensive equipment. Your own two hands and your eyes are actually the best tools you've got for understanding what your soil is trying to tell you. Okay, the first step is ridiculously simple. You don't need a single special tool. All you got to do is reach down a few inches, and it's really important to get past that very top layer, and just grab a handful. The whole story of your soil, it starts with what you feel right there, between your fingers. So what are you feeling? If it's kind of gritty, you're probably dealing with sandy soil, which totally explains why it dries out so fast. But if it's slick, if it smears when it's wet, that's high clay content. And yeah, clay holds water, but it also compacts like crazy and forms that hard crust we were just talking about. But the real truth teller, the thing that never lies, it's water. How water moves, or more importantly, how it doesn't move, through your soil tells you everything about that hidden network of pores and channels that the roots absolutely depend on. It's the ultimate diagnostic tool.
So what are the signals? Puddling means the water can't get in. That's a classic sign of compaction. If it vanishes in a flash, it might just be running right through dry channels and completely bypassing the roots. And if you see it running sideways off even a tiny slope, that's your soil literally screaming that its structure needs help, long before it needs another drop of fertilizer.
And this right here brings us to the absolute core idea of this whole explainer. Before we even think about nutrients or fertilizers, we have to talk about structure. For so many gardeners, this is the big aha moment.
And it all comes down to this one key concept, aggregation. Now, healthy soil isn't just loose dirt. It's actually a collection of these little stable crumbs, or aggregates. The best way to think about it is like a sponge. These crumbs create a whole network of pores and channels, which is the perfect architecture for air and water to get exactly where they need to go.
Because here's the kicker. When that beautiful sponge-like structure collapses, the soil compacts. All that pore space just vanishes. And at that point, it doesn't matter how much water or fertilizer you pour on top, if the roots are suffocating and can't access it, it's completely useless. It's like trying to pour water through a solid brick.
Okay, so we figured out the problem is structure. So, now what? How do we fix it? Well, the key word here is patience. Rebuilding soil structure is a slow biological process. It's not a weekend project. Our number one tool for this job is high-quality organic matter, like a good finished compost. And this isn't just filler, okay? This is food for all the microscopic life in your soil. And it's that life that does the real work, building those beautiful, stable aggregates that we need so badly.
Now, how you apply it is just as important as what you apply. Forget about aggressive, deep tilling. That can actually shatter the fragile structure you're trying to build. Instead, the best method is to apply thin layers right on the surface, and just let the worms in the water do the work of carrying it down into the soil for you.
If you're working in a brand new bed, or you feel like you really need to incorporate it a little bit, a gentle fork in is the way to go. Just lightly lift the top few inches. This loosens the surface without destroying the deeper structure. It's a subtle difference, but it is absolutely critical. So how long does all this take? Let's be realistic. You're going to need about 8 to 12 weeks of normal wet and dry cycles before you start to feel a real noticeable change in the soil's texture. Patience is a gardener's best friend, especially with this.
So once we start fixing the structure, we can also fix our approach to feeding. And this means we have to shift our entire mindset about what fertilizer is actually for.
This right here shows the paradigm shift perfectly. The old way was to treat fertilizer like a vitamin pill that you give directly to the plant. The new, much more effective way is to see it as food for the entire soil ecosystem. You see, when you feed the soil feeds the plant. It creates a much more resilient system. And how do you know if you're getting it wrong? Oh, don't worry, your soil and plants will tell you. Scorched leaf edges, weak floppy growth, or that telltale residue line after water runs off. These are all signs that the nutrients just aren't being used. They're either washing away or building up as harmful salts.
So here's a simple rule to live by. If you fertilize and the plants don't respond, the problem is almost always access, not absence. The nutrients are probably there, but the roots just can't get to them. So what's your next move? Stop feeding and go right back to fixing the structure.
So, how do we put all of this together into a practice that you can actually stick with? Well, it's not about constant frantic adjustments. It's about getting into a simple, repeatable rhythm.
This cycle is your new routine. It's a 4-step dance. First, you observe one specific thing, like how the water's soaking in. Then you make one small adjustment, like adding a thin layer of compost. Then comes the hardest part. You wait. You have to give the soil 4 to 6 weeks to respond before you do anything else. This patient approach stops you from overcorrecting and really shows you what's working.
And what's the ultimate payoff for all this patience and observation? A garden that actually behaves predictably. A garden that requires less work, less guessing, and a whole lot less intervention from you, all because the system underneath it is healthy and resilient.
And that really is the final takeaway here. Stop chasing the quick fix. Instead, embrace the rhythm of small, thoughtful corrections. That is how you build confidence, that's how you reduce your workload, and that's how you create soil that truly supports your garden for years and years to come.